Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
What's going on? Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show here on DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Facebook and Twitter as far as social media is concerned. If you check this thing out on the podcast version, you've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Today is Friday, April the 7th, and it is opening day at Keeneland, and we're brought to you this week by our friends at Keeneland Race Course down in Lexington, Kentucky. Two sure signs that spring is here. One, Keeneland opens, and two, the Masters. I'm sure our friends in Lexington today don't really think it's spring because I believe last I'd heard it's about 45 degrees, and yesterday it rained pretty heavily, and that's why this open is going to be a little bit different than normal if you're used to watching the show. Normally I'll come on and we'll talk about whether it's 3-year-olds or something interesting that happened recently, but I kind of figured opening day, Keeneland, you've got big racing going on. And Keeneland, if you've never been, I cannot recommend it enough. And I'm not just saying that because they're sponsoring the show and they're sponsoring other things here with the Racing Forum. Keeneland is just an experience unlike any other, unlike Saratoga, unlike Santa Anita, unlike Del Mar, anywhere else. It just has a different feel to it, and I think it's very fitting anyway. If you're like me, a big fan of sports just in general, but golf particularly, I think it's fitting that you have, the Masters going on at Augusta National and you have opening weekend at Keeneland. They just have a different feel to them when the races are going on and when this tournament in particular is going on. So rather than go through and just kind of chop up what the recent news has been. I know we're in the midst of big Triple Crown preps, big Derby preps. Let's talk about some actual racing that's going to go on this afternoon down at Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington. It's the main event on their opening day card. It's the feature. It's the Grade 3 Transylvania Stakes. 3-year-olds on the turf. Let's take a look at the field if we could. We've got a field of 9 signed on. I mentioned the weather. Weather has gone through. Sounds like you may not get any more precipitation, but it's kind of done its damage. The main track is listed as muddy. Last I had checked, the turf is listed as yielding. We're going to take this right in post position order if you're new to this thing. Number 1 is Profiteer, 19-1. The 2, Macarios, 7-1. Also worth noting for Macarios, who have a rider change. Corey Lannery has the mount for Nick Zito. The 3, Big Score, 7-1. 4, Oscar Performance, 9-5. Ticonderoga is the 5 at 9-2. Sonic Boom, 13-1. DeHog, 99-1. Cowboy Culture, 19-1. Holiday Stone, 19-1. Again, if you're new to this entire thing, those are my odds, what I consider fair value on each one of these runners individually. The change in the turf course, with it being a little bit more give, have a little bit of sort of cushion in it, let's call it, the yielding going. Sure, it changes things a little bit, but I don't think it hurts who I think is very clearly the most likely winner in the race, and that's Oscar Performance for Brian Lynch. We're going to take a look at his run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. This was back at Santa Anita in November. You see him right now. He's taking over the lead. Look at those fractions. 22-1, 45-4, 9-2, and he's still opening up. And you've got some nice quality runners coming from the back of the pack. Lancaster Bomber, Good Samaritan, who I think has a world of ability, and a horse that you're not really going to see show up into the picture. But he was rolling at the end. You just saw him right there. He finished 4th, was Ticonderoga for Chad Brown. Ticonderoga is a very, very interesting horse simply because he has a beautiful pedigree. I believe this is the son of Kirtana. This is her first baby, and she was a tremendous turfer in her own right. He has a lot of ability. He's just a bit of a nutball, and he still is, unfortunately. I would like to see him become a little bit more professional in time, and maybe he will be. He's still rather lightly raced. He's a 3-year-old. He's only gone out one time thus far. But what we saw from Oscar Performance last year, that's the kind of effort from a 2-year-old that makes you think we may have a really, truly supreme animal here as far as talent is concerned. That was at a flat mile. This race a little bit farther. You're going out to a mile and 16th. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the additional distance. Don't think it's going to be a problem. And the reason I don't think the yielding ground is going to be used as an excuse or can be used as an excuse is because his run 2 starts back at Belmont Park was over yielding ground, and he still buried that field and won by 6 lengths. So I think he is very clearly the most likely winner of the opening day feature at Keeneland, the Transylvania. If you're looking for a live long shot, I don't know how he's going to handle the ground, but Macarios, the horse that I made mention with the rider change to Corey Lannery for Nick Zito, this is a horse coming out of a maiden score down at Gulfstream Park, and he just gives off the vibe that he'll go all day. Now, I don't think he has a giant turn of foot, and maybe that's going to hurt him here in a race like this with over yielding going, but he won at a mile and 3/16. If anything, this mile and 16th is going to be a little bit short for him, I think. He just kind of looks like the kind of horse that once you get him into his, I hate to use cruising speed. I think it's the most overrated term in all of horse racing, but I'm going to use it. Once he hits that cruising speed, I think he just stays there. I don't think he really accelerates. I don't think he decelerates. I think once he hits his quote-unquote cruising speed, I think he just stays there. I don't think he gets any faster. I don't think he has that turn of foot. So positional sort of tactical awareness for Corey Lanerie, I think, is going to go a long way. You can't let Oscar Performance get too far ahead. And if we're being honest, he's probably going to be tough in here. You also don't want to be starting your run with the likes of a Ticonderoga or a Big Score coming in from the West Coast. I don't know how Big Score is going to appreciate the yielding going, but we'll find out. He is a very talented runner in his own right. But like I said, Makarios, Lanerie, you got to stay within shouting distance of Oscar Performance on the front end, and you've got to get the jump on the deep closers like the Ticonderogas of the world simply because you can't outkick them. I think it's a really interesting race. Right now, again, this is about 5 after 12. I checked out scratches about a half an hour ago. Nothing had changed with the exception of the rider change, Corey Lanerie aboard Makarios. But yielding ground as far as the turf is concerned, muddy as far as the main track is concerned. It's opening weekend at Keeneland Racecourse. They are our presenter here on the Matt Bernier Show this Saturday afternoon. And again, I cannot stress it enough. If you have the opportunity to get to Keeneland, you absolutely have to do everything the right way, from the way they treat the customers, from the wagering menus, from the racing, the actual product. They do everything the right way, and I'm not going to get into what happened last Saturday with all the other. We're going to get into the big races. We're going to do that in the review segment about the two Kentucky Derby preps. But I'm not going to get into all the nonsense that myself and a million other people were tweeting about on Twitter. But trust me when I say Keeneland is the complete opposite of what happened last Saturday afternoon, where they're on time, they do things the right way, they treat the customer right, and I can't say enough about Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky. And again, thank you to all of them for sponsoring us here this week on the Matt Bernier Show. We're going to take a break here about 12:07 on the East Coast, 9:07 on the West Coast. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to do a quick review and take a look back at those 2 3-year-old preps that we had last Saturday afternoon, the Louisiana Derby as well as the Florida Derby, kind of assess what we see out of those two races, possibly going forward to the first Saturday in May. And then we'll dive into the big three coming up tomorrow afternoon. You've got the Bluegrass down in Lexington. You've got the Wood Memorial here in New York at Aqueduct, as well as the Santa Anita Derby out in Southern California at Santa Anita Park tomorrow afternoon. Final big preps leading up to the Kentucky Derby. Stay with us, the Matt Bernier Show.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Does your online wagering platform want you to win? If they did, wouldn't they help you win? At DRF Bets, we're all about raising your game. That's why we give our players the data, tools, and know-how that no other service can. For starters, DRF Bets is the only place you can get free DRF PPs when you wager. But we don't stop at PPs. With free access to DRF Plus, DRF Bets members get the kind of insider...
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
.1209 on the East, 9:09 on the West, the Matt Bernier Show, DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com. Twitter having a little bit of a malfunction, but you can still watch on Facebook as far as social media is concerned. And obviously the podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. For better or for worse, we always go back and take a look and see how we did the weekend prior with the races that we handicapped. Last weekend, it was a light load. We only went with the 2-3-year-old preps. It's going to be very similar this week after we come back from break, after we assess what we saw last weekend. We're only going to go over the 3-year-old preps, the big ones anyway for the boys. For the Kentucky Derby, you had the big two last weekend. You had the Florida Derby as well as the Louisiana Derby. Of the two, I think the more fancied race going in as well as coming out is the Florida Derby, and we're going to start with that one. I thought the most likely winner going into the race was Gunnevera. I thought my pick anyway, and the horse I was most interested in, I couldn't call him a live long shot because I knew he wasn't going to be, was Always Dreaming for Todd Pletcher. Pete Aiello from the top of the lane.
And the lead is now held by Always Dreaming. Always Dreaming set down for the drive by John Velasquez, and he's moving away. State of Honor is up into second, an impressive edge. Gunnevera too little, too late. But inside the 16th pole, the 2017 Florida Derby to Todd Pletcher. And Always Dreaming, they won it by 4 in the end. Second State of Honor, Gunnevera got running.
Apologize if I coughed over the stretch run there. I have a little, take a drink and all of a sudden it goes down the wrong tube. It's not a good thing when you're on air. All things considered, I have no issue with the way Always Dreaming ran, other than the fact that it's a Pletcher, and I don't need to go over all the details. You all are very familiar with the way that Todd has performed in the Kentucky Derby. I don't particularly think the numbers are truly as bad as they look at face value. I believe the number is something like 1 for 45. But you have to keep in mind, how many of his horses truly had a chance to win the Kentucky Derby? I suppose if you want to say, oh, well, you're in the starting gate, anything can happen, and that's a very optimistic way of looking at things. Of the 45 starters, realistically, and I'm not suggesting it's a good number or a good percentage, but 18, 20 of them, so 1 for 20, okay, still not a great number. Keep in mind, you're going up against 19 other horses, and it's once a year. I don't want to hold that against him. The man obviously knows how to train a racehorse. And this year, the 3-year-olds have just it's been Pletcher mania. He has all the good ones, it seems like, all over coast to coast. This one, I think, may be the most talented of them all. It'll be interesting to see. He's still lightly raced, but he has foundation. Dan Ullman has brought up a very, very good point, and I think a major point of emphasis that this horse already has 2 mile and an eighth preps under his belt. I think the foundation is there. He passed the class test with flying colors. Always dangerous Pletcher leaving Gulfstream because that's where he seems to do his most of his damage. But boy, this horse looks good out there winning the Florida Derby with a 97 Beyer speed figure. Gunnevera, who I thought was the most likely winner, finishes third. There were a lot of things going against him. The pace, I don't think it was slow. Like a lot of people are saying that it was just kind of a softish pace. 47 is honest, it's legitimate enough. But it wasn't the sort of blistering setup that a horse like Gunnevera probably needs to showcase his best. I don't think he was disgraced at all. I think he did what he was supposed to do. I just didn't want him to throw in a complete bomb. I needed him to go out there, run his race, come with a run at the end. I didn't care if it was third or fourth. Just come on at the end, finish well, gallop out, do your thing, and then go forward 4 or 5 weeks from now. He did all that. I have no knocks against this horse. Again, he's far from the sexiest horse you're ever going to see. And we talked about that ad nauseum, where he's not one that's going to blow you away with what he does on the racetrack. But he's honest. He's going to show up and run his race. He's going to be at the mercy of pace and trip, as all these one-run closers are. But Gunnevera, I have no knocks against this effort from him in the Florida Derby. It's worth noting, and you have to keep it in the back of your mind. As much money is on the table for all of these final preps, many of the horses that are already in the first Saturday in May in the starting gate, sure, they want to win these final preps, but they got their eye on a bigger prize. They got their eye on the Kentucky Derby. So I think, all things considered, the winner really, really looked impressive. That was Always Dreaming. I thought Gunnevera did what he was supposed to do, got a good tune-up. He should be fine and ready to go the first Saturday in May. Louisiana, different story. Going into it, I thought the most likely winner was Gervin for Joe Sharp. He hadn't done anything wrong on dirt. My pick in the race was Guess Sweet for Neil Howard. This was a horse that I thought additional distance was only going to be his friend. And I thought maybe, his run prior to this in the Risen Star was not nearly as bad as it looked. Well, maybe I was being a little bit hopeful and optimistic. John G. Dooley from the top of the lane, Louisiana Derby.
Some swoop is on the far outside. Guess Sweet also looking to pick it up into the stretch. 3/4 went and 1:11 flat. Local Hero has taken the lead with a furlong to go. Here comes Gervin's charge now. It's Gervin who has taken the lead from Local Hero to the inside. Senior Investment. Late game by Hollywood Handsome. They come past the 16th. It's Gervin. Gervin, Brian Hernandez Jr. for Joe Sharp. And Gervin has won the TwinSpires.com Louisiana Derby. Pat was second.
He did what he needed to do, Gervin, and it sounds like it's a knock. But at the end of the day, you just go back and look at the field that he's beaten. It's hard for me to get excited. Local Hero hasn't really stepped forward. You see some of the other runners in there. Guest Suite was just horrific. I don't know. Gervin is a nice horse. Patch comes running on at the end. Patch is no superstar. It's hard for me to get really excited. And then when you see visually it doesn't pass the eye test, you see what the figure comes back. I believe it came back as a 90 preliminary and it moved up to a 91. He's just going to need, he hasn't done anything wrong, but he's going to need to improve by leaps and bounds if he's going to be a threat in the Kentucky Derby. I like that he has tactical speed, doesn't have to come from 100 out of it, but he probably is best suited coming from a little bit farther out of it. And, when you look at a race like the Derby, do you really want to be trying to run? If you gave me two horses coming from the back of the pack, Gunnevera or Gervin, I'm going to take Gunnevera every time. If you try to get him into the running earlier, I don't think he's nearly as talented as a horse like Always Dreaming or some of these horses that we're going to see tomorrow afternoon in the final 3-year-old preps. It's just hard for me to get super excited about a horse like Gervin where he's done nothing wrong. He's honest. The connections deserve all the credit in the world, and they have every right to go on to the Derby with him, and I hope all works for him. It's hard for me to get too excited about a horse like this. The horse that I picked in the race, Guest Suite, was just god-awful. He was awful. There's no two ways around it. He didn't pick his feet up at any point, and maybe my assessment of him was just entirely wrong. Talent-wise, he was a little bit slow going into it, and he's slower than slow coming out of it. Doesn't matter if distance is going to be your friend. If you can't get it done in a reasonably fast time, there's no chance for you. And it doesn't look like he has points anyways to get into the first Saturday in May. So a disappointing effort for me from Guest Suite. Gervin does what he's supposed to do. He wins the Louisiana Derby. Didn't knock me away. He didn't blow knock my socks off. But at the end of the day, he just shows up, runs his race. He moves on to the Kentucky Derby. That was the review from last week. When we come back, we're going to dive into three big ones this weekend. You've got the Bluegrass at Keeneland. You've got the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. You've got the Santa Anita Derby at Santa Anita Park. This is the Matt Bernier Show presented by Keeneland. Stay with us.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Does your online wagering platform want you to win? If they did, wouldn't they help you win? At DRF Bets, we're all about raising your game. That's why we give our players the data, tools, and know-how that no other service can. For starters, DRF Bets is the only place you can get free DRF PPs when you wager. But we don't stop at PPs. With free access to DRF Plus, DRF Bets members get the kind of insider...
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
$12.19 on the East, $9.19 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show, DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com. It's time to go over some handicapping. And before we dive into the racing, again, with the Masters going on, I've got to throw it out there. I threw out my tweet early yesterday morning before the first round really kicked off. My pick for this entire thing, Rory McIlroy, I think he finally gets the career Grand Slam sort of notch done. It would be the sixth player all time. His game is too good for him not to win here. And I feel like this week, particularly with Dustin Johnson being withdrawn, setting is ripe. If he can get through today, it seems like the wind is not nearly as bad as it was toward certain parts of the day yesterday, but if he can get through this today, I think he's got a big shot. On the weekend in the live long shot, Mark Leishman, last I checked, he was 1 over through about 4 or 5 holes on his round today, so we'll see. He's going to need to improve a little bit, but I believe the projected cut is +4 at the moment. So those are the picks for me for the Masters, a tradition unlike any other, me burying golfers in major tournaments. Let's dive into the thing that we know a little bit more about, horse racing. And again, we're presented this week by our friends at Keeneland Racecourse, and we'll start off with the Bluegrass. It's the big one down in Lexington tomorrow afternoon. Let's take a look at that field. If you're new to this thing, as we did at the top on the far right side of the screen, you can see my odds, value line, what I think is fair on each one of these runners. This is not the largest Kentucky Derby prep, but I think it may be the deepest field of 7, right in order. The 1, It's Your Nickel, 32-1, McCracken, 3-1, J-Boys Echo, 9-2, Taprit, 7-2, Wild Shot, 6-1, IRAP, 49-1, and Practical Joke, 5-1. I think the most likely winner of this race is McCracken. As you can see by the odds, though, I don't think he is some slam dunk in this race. He said a number of things go against him. He had the little hiccup as far as his workouts are concerned. We're leading up to the Tampa Bay Derby, had a little bit of filling in the ankle. Ian Wilkes says, you know what, let's be safe. Let's not do anything that could jeopardize the Kentucky Derby, which I think is the perfect thing. And the good thing that they had in their back pocket was time, where if it had happened now, I think he'd be in deep, deep trouble. Luckily for them, it happened earlier on. If he comes back, again, he's unbeaten, hasn't done anything wrong, 4 for 4 lifetime. He's professional, and I think that's such a positive thing. And particularly, you looked at him as a 2-year-old. He was nothing but professional. He just did everything like an older horse. Ian Wilkes clearly knows a thing or two about getting a horse ready for a big, big race, whether it be, being the assistant to Carl Nafsker during the entire Street Sense situation, or getting Fort Larned ready to win multiple Grade 1s, including the Breeders' Cup Classic. He's in good hands, McCracken is, with Ian Wilkes. I think he's the most likely winner. But again, at what is probably going to be an underlaid price, in my opinion, I kind of want to take a shot against him. And I'm going to do it with a horse that he has handled multiple times in the past. But I think Wild Shot is going to hopefully, he's my pick, and I think he's a live long shot in this race to turn the tables on everyone. And for me, really, this is a pace makes the race situation. We're going to take a look at his Breeders' Futurity. This was last fall at Keeneland. And the big thing about this race, he's out there. He's already been passed, but he's down on the inside right now. Classic Empire is out there. The reason I chose this replay as opposed to either of his Tampa races, he is the only part of this pace that's sticking around, and he's sticking around admirably. He's not entirely embarrassed. I know he's beaten by about 3.5, 4 lengths by Classic Empire, but we know what Classic Empire was as a 2-year-old. Wild Shot, thus far, as a 3-year-old, the connections have taken away his speed. And I think a lot of it has to do with probably concern that he's not going to be able to see out at 1 1/8. Well, Rusty Arnold has said he is going to the front. We don't care about that anymore. We're going to use our speed in a race where there's not a lot of pace. Wild Shot, call him the wise guy horse, because I'm sure I've seen a lot of people chirp about him on Twitter. I think Wild Shot has a legitimate chance. Maybe he can't win, but he can certainly stick around for a piece. I like Wild Shot in the Bluegrass down at Keeneland tomorrow afternoon. Let's come here to New York. It's the Big A, Aqueduct. You've got a field of 8 in the Grade 2 Wood Memorial. Let's take a look at that field. This is a fascinating race because I think you've got a lot of horses that need to either prove that their most recent clunkers were just sort of a mirage, or not a mirage, but an aberration, and that they can rebound to their best efforts. And you have a few horses that are lightly raced that need to prove that this isn't too much too soon for them. In order, 1, Glen Richmond, 32-1, Motown, 8-1, Battalion Runner, 4-1, Bonus Points, 49-1, True Timber, 32-1, Stretches Stone, 6-1, Cloud Computing, 3-1, Irish War Cry, 7-2. I think the most likely winner of this race is Cloud Computing for Chad Brown. We're going to take a look at his run in the Gotham. He was a runner-up behind J-Boys Echo. J-Boys Echo, you'll see in the Bluegrass at Keeneland tomorrow afternoon. He is rolling up on the outside right now, taking over. You have Cloud Computing in the Klarovich colors, the red and white, down on the inside, and he is not wilting. This was a hot pace. I know the fractions don't look overly fast, but 47-3, they're running into a headwind down the backstretch. The fact that this horse in his second lifetime start, his first time going 2 turns, is not embarrassed in what, on all speed figures, whether you're looking at buyers, you're looking at Timeform US ratings, anything else, all speed figures have this being one of, if not the fastest prep to date, with the exception of Mastery's run in the San Felipe. Unfortunately, he's off the Triple Crown Trail. cloud computing, maybe this is too much too soon, and that would be my only sort of reservation. I think he's the most likely winner in the race. I made him 3-1. I have a sneaky suspicion he is going to get absolutely pounded at the windows. I won't be surprised if he's in the vicinity of 7 or 8-5 because, look, Chad can do no wrong these days, and it looks like this is really sort of his let's call it for what it is in my opinion. This might be his best opportunity thus far for a horse as far as the Kentucky Derby is concerned. We know he's a master on the turf, and he's been getting more and more good quality as far as dirt stock is concerned. Thus far to date, I think this is his best opportunity to win the Kentucky Derby in a year that has just been up and down sideways. This horse, a late bloomer, coming on to the show, and he's looking very, very good doing so. I think a live long shot in this race is Stretches Stone. He's a New York bred. I don't know that he can win the race, but I think he can get involved at a decent number. He's done nothing wrong in his few lifetime starts. I think his 2-turn races have both been good. I think this is an interesting horse. I think there's a lot of things to like here. He's in good hands with Bruce Levine. I think this is an interesting runner again. I don't know that he can win, but I think he's a live long shot. And for what it's worth, my pick in the race, my actual pick, is Irish Warcry because I think he had shown too much in those 3 prior starts before his most recent clunker down at Gulfstream Park to think that there's not something here. The 101 buyer he earned 2 starts back. I'm not even suggesting and hoping that he gets back to that, but that shows. I know he had all things go his way. That shows that there's some quality in that horse. My pick is Irish Warcry. The most likely winner, I think, is Cloud Computing, and a live long shot is Stretches Stone. The third of the big 3, let's go out to the left coast, the west coast. Santa Anita Park, it's the Santa Anita Derby. It's a grade 1, $1 million on the line. Let's take a look at this field. You want to talk about a Derby prep? We've got all the nuts and bolts on video.drf.com. You've got a field of 13 signed on in here. I believe I had read this is the largest Santa Anita Derby field since 1981, when they also had 13 runners. We're going to give them to you right in post position order. The 1, Term of Art, 19-1. Reach the World, 5-1. Battle of Midway, 7-1. Kama Sister, 49-1. So Conflated, 13-1. American Anthem, 6-1. Kim Bear, 11-1. Gormley, 8-1 as we turn the page. Number 9, Iliad, 6-1. Milton Freewater, 49-1. Irish Freedom, 24-1. Midnight Pleasure, 49-1. And Royal Mo, drawn the far outside with Gary Stevens, 32-1. This is a very interesting race for a number of reasons. I think your favorite is going to be tepid at best. On the morning line, your favorite is Iliad at 7-2. And I have him listed as a vulnerable favorite. We're going to take a look at his most recent start. This was in the San Felipe. You're going to see the brilliant mastery going out there. Iliad's going to take his shot. He already has. I don't like, boom, he just popped to his left lead. He already righted the ship. But watch when he gets hit left-handed. That tail is going to start flashing all over the joint. That, to me, look, you can look at it a couple of different ways. And I thought Dan Illman worded it perfectly in the stakes preview. Okay, he was clearly the second best. And now you don't have to beat Mastery. By default, does he just inherit it and maybe he's just the most likely winner in the race? I think that's entirely possible. I'm afraid that he just doesn't want to go this far, regardless of what his pedigree would suggest. I just at a short price, in a big, big field, he does nothing for me. I think he can go so many different ways in this race. I won't be surprised if the big 2, and I say the big 2 because they are the biggest names in the field, American Anthem and Gormley, I won't be surprised if they improve from their most recent just dreadful efforts. I don't want to bet on it, though. I don't want to find out at a short price or a middling price that maybe they're not as good as I and some others had thought that they were. I think a live long shot in this race is Term of Art. And you had just seen Iliad run second. The horse coming from the back of the pack was Term of Art. Now, the interesting thing about Term of Art, this is a horse that I have never loved, but I have to admit he is slowly winning me over. I don't think he can win this race, but if he gets the points he needs to get into the Kentucky Derby, and if you get an honest pace signed on, this is a horse that he just slowly but surely continues to build and build and build. Doug O'Neill has handled him like he's been a good horse from day one, regardless of his performances on the racetrack. I think that says a lot. We always talk about it, handle him, treat him like they're a good horse. Doug O'Neill has done nothing but that with this horse. I believe he even ran the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. This is a horse that distance is only going to be his friend. If he can get through this and he can get points, I think he's a little bit interesting the first Saturday in May. Maybe not to win, but why can't he be the one that spices up your trifecta or your superfecta at a big, big number and blows it up and turns it into a memorable Kentucky Derby for you from a wagering standpoint? Vulnerable favorite for me is Iliad. Live long shot, Term of Art. My pick in the race in Baffert, I trust the number 2, Reach the World, along with Mike Smith. They've done some good work recently. I'm sure you've heard of a horse called Arrowgate. It's about 12:29 on the East Coast, 9:29 in the West. The Matt Bernier Show, presented by our friends at Keeneland. I want to thank them again for sponsoring this show, and I believe they may be sponsoring us again next week as well. Big day. It's opening day down there in Lexington. It may not feel like it's spring, but you know what? The good thing is the weather in Lexington can change like the wind. So hopefully over the weekend, things will warm up. It sounds like the precipitation is gone. You've got a big day on deck here for opening day. You've got the Transylvania. We'll throw it to that momentarily with the Friday Formulator Race of the Day. Illman and Beer brought you through that. But reminder to everyone, video.drf.com. Out of the gate, it's the new weekend handicapping show. This is the third show that we've done. We go over all sorts of great racing. We also have great added insights from people like Nicole Russo and Jonathan Kinchin. It's really a good show. It's a fun show. It's fast. It's hard-hitting. And it gives you some opinions. If you want all the hard-hitting, in-depth analysis, go over to video.drf.com. That's where you get the full stakes previews as well. But again, watch Out of the Gate should be uploaded on video.drf.com as well as YouTube later on this afternoon. Speaking of later on this afternoon, the Formulator Race of the Day for Friday. It is the Grade 3 Transylvania opening day at Keeneland. Best of luck this weekend. My name is Matt Bernier. Follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Until next Friday, best of luck. We'll talk to you then.